there's something authentic about Four in terms of like its negativity and rawness, but like I don't think I'm being myself all the time because I'm saying no to a lot of my natural reactions in favor of an image.
That's really good. Like, what is you that is completely uncontaminated, uninfluenced by the environment, by history, and that the way that we as Fourfourstration do it is over-individuating.
I wanted to get a tattoo that just said upset. I just thought, like, it's like, don't ask me questions, just look at this.
The Big Hormone Enneagram.
I'm John Lekovich, 415, sexual self-pres, 458 trifix.
I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual, 9 with 1 wing, 974 trifix.
What up, it's Emeka. I'm an 8 wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm a social self-preservation 9 wing 1, 963 trifix.
If you enjoyed the show, like and subscribe on Apple and Spotify. And even if you don't like us, leave a review. And if you want to support the show with a donation, you can find us on Venmo at Big Hormone and paypal.me/Big Hormone.
Welcome to Big Hormone Enneagram. It's 4-on-4 violence with me and Joseph. We're going to just do the plugs real quick. Just buy my book, rate and review it, please. Enneagramschool.com, me and Josh. Alexandra is killing it with her and Josh doing the attachment type support group. It's sold out. There's a wait list if you want to do the next one. Hopefully they'll have dates and stuff. Alexandra's doing the Bachelorette and the Enneagram. It's very funny, very interesting. I hate reality TV, and yet I watch those things because they're such good, deep analyses of like personality in a fun way with a very cute girl doing it. And she has been doing some shit recently with Joseph. You did the Barbie movie, and what else have you been doing? Yeah.
We did some reality TV as well, unfortunately. But it was lots of fun. I just put all of, obviously subscribe to DAA if you want to learn typing skills. I had sort of an offshoot of DAA called the Princess Court, which I just decided, I think yesterday, to put it on YouTube, so I'm going to be uploading those on YouTube, and I've been doing them with Alexandra and Akram as well, and we're having lots of fun, so check that out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think that's great that it's going to be on YouTube, because those are really funny and really interesting.
Yeah.
And y'all have like a social hammy vibe altogether.
Yeah, it's social sexual 7, social sexual, it's a lot.
So for listeners that don't do DAA, what are the things that you're what are the topics that Princess Court has, and how'd they find you on YouTube or whatever?
Yeah, so it's just our Enneagrammer YouTube channel. I mean, right now we've only made a few videos, but we've kind of done some, I guess, kind of like social stuff, like media, the Barbie movie. I think we're going to be recording an episode soon, the Interview with the Vampire TV show. Lots of good typing stuff there. And we did Love is Blind. Is that the show? Alexandra and Akram are very excited. I have not seen it, but reality TV is great because it's so stupid and so base that it's like the perfect way to learn the Enneagram, because there's like no intellect making anything confusing.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. And like my thing that I've appreciated is that when people get into conflicts, like it shows you the stuff a description can like kind of intimate or hint at, but it like to actually see those dynamics it's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So and then David Trifix booklet, and I can't remember what else for David. Anyway, that's all I can remember for
that's fine.
all the plug.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so I wanted to talk to Joseph because we did a social blind roast, and you, Joseph, were talking about vulnerability and like how difficult it was for you to be vulnerable. I think you mentioned it in the context of being friends with straight guys, but it kind of struck me because I experienced growing up, especially, like a lot of vulnerability and insensitivity, and had to go through a process of kind of intentionally hardening myself, which is, whatever. but it's still a thing I struggle with, of how to be like a normal functional person with sensitivity. And I was curious too about, like, when we were doing that like test thing,
Mhm.
the different ways that we were understanding sensitivity, vulnerability, and our inner life in reaction or relation to the outer world. And so I thought that was just really interesting. And there's not a lot of, we talk a lot about Four on the pod and stuff, but it doesn't really like get into it, I think, a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if you had anything to say about that, but I had questions and stuff like that for you.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate, I guess what I was saying, that hardening piece that you're talking about is sort of something that probably every like male kind of relates to or whatever. But I think, yeah, there's something I call it like a pseudo rejection 8 thing, which is why so many of our male clients like really desperately want to be typed as 8, and it's just some it's sort of, I mean, I could talk about that, but I won't. But the point is, there's this thing that happens where you're trying to slice off all the like vulnerable or feminine, so to speak, parts of yourself, and that's sort of anti-4, and it's kind of anti-sexual as well, where asexual is very like kind of fluid and like back and forth in terms of power dynamics and structure. I was just saying this sort of group of people, I've never been more comfortable working with. I it's stupid, but like I just like boys bullied me all the time, so I was like never really friends with them. So to realize that like it's sort of irrelevant in this group of people, and it might be because of social blindness, but I think that 4 piece is a big thing, because there's something sort of like anti uber mask, anti athletic. It's not to say that 4s can't do sports or 4s can't do masculinity or whatever, but there is something sort of like wet and emotional and soft, and I'm going to go inside, not go outside with punches, that 4 fixers kind of do to like move through the world.
For sure. Yeah. So, I was curious, like, we use that term sensitive a lot, and, I think one of the things we were getting at when we were working on those test questions was the difference between 4 sensitivity and 9 sensitivity.
Right.
And so I was curious of, like, how you experience the difference, and especially the difference, like, as a heart type versus, like, a body type. Like, what is your particular relationship to your heart, and how does that, like, what's vulnerable there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a big question. I'm trying to think about. I sometimes find it like I almost wish that with the Enneagram that people would just tell me what they think I'm doing, because I realize that with the Enneagram, even though like you Hex said, you think you know yourself, but like you don't know shit. But if I'm thinking about just being around so many 9s, like for example, if maybe you experience this in your partnership with a 9, but when 9s get sensitive, just as a contrast, I almost find that there's no difference in his reaction between him being mad at me or mad at like the couch. It's the same, just like sort of vague, bubbling, uneasy, something's wrong, I don't know. It's not this like pointed, like you stung me in this one place and I have something to hit back at you. For me, I think it's more specific and pointed at something image-based, and then I either lash out or just am like, I have to get out of here. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm saying. Does that make any sense?
No, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Something that I experienced of a lot as a kid was, being very like disembodied and being very like, withdrawn and stuff. But I feel like the one thing that like kept me human in a certain way was like I have a soft careful caring kind of, like, I think of it as like a line to 2, like like a weird soft thing. And like, when I first learned the Enneagram, it was pretty fucking obvious I was a 4. But one of the things that I try to check myself and entertain, like maybe I'm a 5 because I got so much 5, but that like there is like a big like I care about people kind of a thing that I don't feel like. I feel like often when we're crafting descriptions and stuff like that, we kind of minimize because so many 9s can see themselves in that. Yeah. But I've always been like very aware of like people's feelings.
Right.
Not always I'm social blind, so I'm not like, it's not like I'm tracking all their little moods and reactions.
Mhm.
And the way I think of it is like, I'm very comfortable like offending people, upsetting people. I'm very comfortable with provoking people, getting them angry. But it's like, I don't want their feelings to be hurt. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, as a difference there?
Yes, actually. Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm absorbing that as you say it, because my family would always be like, "You have so much bark and you can't take it." Because I'd sit there and just rip things to shreds, not realizing that's what I was doing. It was just like, this is me. And then somebody would say like one thing to me and I'd like cry. Like I'd be like, I can't, and I hate everything. I hate all of you. I have to go. This whole world sucks kind of thing. But like not realizing that like I had just done like so much worse.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the way I think of the heart center is about like 2, 3, and 4 as being different expressions of, or different like representations of universal ways we all know and express identity. And so like 2 is how we know and express identity through relationship, 3 through like how we actualize potential, and 4, like it took me a while to come to this because I was like, I know that I have a sense of what I'm doing, but I couldn't quite find the language. And then finally it like clicked that, it's trying to know and express your identity through what is like uniquely your own. Like what is you that is completely uncontaminated, uninfluenced by the environment, by history. And that the way that we as Fourfourstration do it is over-individuating. Is like overly, in a piece of art, it's like, oh, this is the expression or the colors or the shapes that are coming out of me through this, and getting really like precious about those things as distinct points on the compass to get back to our self.
Yeah.
And so
what's the me that's not that completely unencumbered by anything else? Like, what can I find that color? It's got to be, this thing.
Absolutely.
And so you're starting to like, okay, this is the thing. And then if anything else tries to influence it, it's like, fuck off.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And, and at the same time, like I said before, I've always related to a kind of two-ishness, actually. Like, I don't know if you have that experience, but
no, actually.
I've always had this like lovey-dovey, like hidden romancy thing. And I think it shows up in the way I like get all like involved in romantic relationships. But it's like, I've always felt that like, despite all my like 4 or 5, whatever, like that, like lovey-dovey thing is always very there, but I like hide it a lot, and I don't present that as part of my image at all. And it's kind of like, if you can get through all my shit, it's there.
Yeah.
It's
no,
like,
actually,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, yeah, that's true. I mean, with my partners, I mean, no one's ever going to see that is a just in this space thing. I'm very, probably cute and affectionate and needy and vulnerable and all those things. But there are situations where like somebody tells a joke and I will force myself not to smile because I don't want them to think that I think it's funny. So I can't even be happy when I'm happy. Like I'm in such control of my own like natural heart expression, because there's something about like, I don't like that I found that joke funny. It's not me, so I'm not even I can't laugh at it, even though I was laughing, And
so, like, why? Like, why would you not want, like, why would that be a thing to control?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's like, if I, maybe it's like a social thing. If I laugh, or if I laugh at somebody's joke, then I'm handing them access to me as well, which I don't want them to have, and maybe I'm not ready for them to have access to me or see. Like, I think the most vulnerable part of me is that part that is actually affected by, that's like doing attachment, that's just like affected by the world. That's not me just like, okay, no, it has to be this exact color. That stuff that just flows naturally out of you, that like goes against whatever your image ego, I'm not ready to let people who know me very well will start to just see more and more of that, because it is the real me. But I'm not ready to let somebody see that. Or it's like a social thing where this is a joke that everybody's supposed to find funny. I'm not going to be that basic social thing. Even if I'm laughing, I can't. And in a space, I would rather be the only person who refuses to laugh. It's kind of a dumb analogy, but yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I don't really relate to that.
No, and I don't really see that about you either. I think it's just like three-wing social stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little indiscriminate in a certain social way. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm trying to kind of enter what you're speaking to, but from my lens.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Because the stuff that I'm really fourish about, let's say, is like social stuff, social chemistry, all that kind of, like all these little examples I'm giving, or stuff that is me. Like it could be objects, but like it's sort of this is the stuff that represents me. Like I think you asked me about like my piano and all the stuff that. For you as sexual self-pres and with a 5-wing, what are the avenues that you feel like you're the most, this has to be very much exactly me, coming from me and nowhere else? Because it's not social stuff, because a lot of stuff I'm describing is just super social, so you're gonna be like, I don't really care about that. What is it for you?
That's a great question. I mean, for one thing, poor Alexandra gets a lot of this, but like, I mean, it really is like my romantic relationship, and it is like it's not just I'm in a romantic relationship with this person. Like the thing that the little like Alexandra and I, there's just so much identification with Alexandra and like our dynamic together and what she represents for me, and like it's really, it feels like part of, like I've talked pretty openly that I have like jealousy is like a thing, and part of that is because it's like she is my heart, and if she's like been with other people, it's like my heart has been exposed to other people in a certain way.
Right.
It's really kind of embarrassing and almost like scary how much my heart is like in her, and so there's a lot, and so that's one aspect, and then another aspect is like what I would broadly like paint as like my own creativity, especially in terms of like drawing and painting, is like the vision, not even the paintings itself, but like the vision that goes into them, and that like that envisioning, symbolizing thing. And so when it comes to like non-contamination, just like that frustration in the heart center thing of like keeping out. So like I was reading a poet named Ami Césaire, and he's got this book of poetry called Solar Throat Slashed, and that line was so like powerful, just that like that name for some reason, and like I've known that book for years, and I got a copy of it and I was reading it, and I found out that Solar Throat Slashed was a interpretation of a line of another poet's poem, and I read this other poem, and it was like really not interesting in my opinion. And I was like, I had this like thing where I was like, Ami, the poet, I was like, what are you doing? Like taking, like, on one hand, you can never totally be original with creativity.
Yeah.
But like for him to take his beautiful book of poems and base it on a name from somebody else felt like this weird, like,
yeah.
What are you doing, man? Like, yeah. And I was like really intrigued by the level of reactivity I had to that, where it came from something else. And so like obviously like I know I'm going long, but like I know I like am influenced by other artists and other thinkers and stuff like this. But there's a thing about like not wanting to be too influenced.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, and it's like I've had to learn, because it's just fact, that's like existent, especially in the world we live in now. I feel like even in the 90s, like some new electronic, like a Radiohead went electronic and it was like, you know what now it's like there's nothing new. We have access to everything in our pockets. There's absolutely no way to not copy and be influenced by someone else. But the last thing that I'd want to do, and it happens sometimes, is to sort of just be like, yeah, I based this on, or for example, like lots of classical music is like it'll be based on like folk dances, just like of the people, which is like sort of anti-four, right? And most composers are like nines, maybe four-fifths, whatever. And I'll be like, oh, this is so sublime, but it's just based on some like drunken tavern dance.
Yeah.
And that's so strange. Like, I mean, I think, and then what's interesting is that when you hear the artist of the sublime thing talk about it, they'll emphasize, like if they're usually not forced, they'll emphasize the tavern dance, not this sublime thing that they did to elevate it, the meanness of what I did to this dance. It's like, oh, you know, I'm just making music of the people. And it's like, that's not something I ever want to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, like, what I'm, like, picking up in this is, like, the way that forced self-limit, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, and
right.
Returning to kind of vulnerability, like a thing about me is a lot of my life, till I was like in my early 20s, like was so limited in terms of like what I would expose myself to, what I would do,
Same.
how I would act, what I would say. And I got to a point where I was like in college, like deeply, deeply isolated. And it got me, and, you know, part of the limitation thing was humor is really important to me, but it was hard for me to like be friends with people because in real time, I'm better at this now because I've done a lot more work to like get in my body, but like I couldn't come up with like funny things or like I couldn't respond to things. It was like my loading time for like things to say was like very slow. Because I would all go through the filter of the emotional center and then the mental center and then hit the body last. And so by doing like breath and other body stuff, I've learned to be more like a human and more able to express myself and to like come back with things and make fun of people and do all that kind of roasting and stuff. But that was a big thing of vulnerability where it was like I was too slow. Right. And therefore I barely existed as a social being. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Side note, I just realized you're wearing a shirt that says miserable across the chest. I love that so much. I would like that shirt. Okay, there's a bottom. Okay. But anyway, still, just if it just said miserable. Anyway, but yeah. I wanted to get a tattoo that just said upset. I just thought like, It's like, don't ask me questions, just look at this. But anyway, no, the self-limiting of 4 is such a huge thing. I realize the same thing. It's sort of different again, because I don't have the 5 wing and I'm not social blind. So I'm actually like out there, but in my out there-ness, I'm so self-limiting. Like, for example, I will never come to a zone. I won't come. I can't do it. I can't do the group. I can't do all the stuff that you guys do is like, no, hard, cut off, cut it out, not happening. I'm not going to do that. So if we do something as a group, say, it kind of has to be, I think we talked this on our last call, but I'll reiterate it. Like, you know, we all met in New York. I was really grateful that it was like, okay, Joseph will meet us if we go to a rooftop bar. So let's just do that. And that was really nice. But I don't want to insert myself. No, we didn't talk about this. Sorry. I don't want to insert myself into something that you're doing and say I have to control everything that happens here. Because if I can't, I will leave. So I won't go to clubs. I won't do a million things. And I won't do stuff like even in high school. This was like really difficult for me because it was like social limitation where I'd be like, I like you and I like you, but I don't like you. Or I want to hang out with just you during this time and you have to go. Like I would tell my close friends, no, you can't. Like, we're not hanging out right now because this is my time with this person. And I don't want to be like, I was just so self-limiting and so controlling about social. And going back to that piece we were saying about like the instinctual area that you do fourness in, like social sexual is about social chemistry. So that's the thing. Like, I need to feel that something's happening to you when we talk, when we interact, and it's like very specific and you can only get it from me. And if I don't have that, I am like, if you're trying to universalize me into a group, or it's the same jokes, the same conversations you have with everybody, I don't want to be around you. Like, it makes me anxious to even be around you, because then I can't do me or something.
Yeah, what is the, like, if you didn't have control and were just like thrown out into things, what is the fear, anxiety thing that would the bad thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what is the bad thing? I don't know. I actually, like that's like, I need to do inner work on that. Like, what is the bad thing? I guess it depends on the situation. Let me think for a second. I have us. Okay, so like, I have us. Like, if I'm saying I don't want you, I'm talking to you. Like, so okay, John and I, we're talking. Mecca's gonna come in, for example, and I wouldn't actually mind this. I'm just as an example. It comes in now. The thing that we had, that specific chemistry that is me, but now it's connected to you because it's social, has now been destroyed because it's changing. And then you guys have your own thing, and that's not about me. And so now we're not doing my four thing. We're just doing the thing that everybody does when they talk.
I see. So is it like there's like a preciousness about social chemistry?
That's right. Yeah.
And then if that social chemistry is disrupted, does that potentially, like, the shame is like supposedly the underlying thing of the heart center. Is that what some kind of shame or humiliation? Is that what it brings up?
Yeah. Like, I remember I had, when you're younger, you kind of do more group stuff. You're like in school or whatever. So I had like a few friends in university that I would hang out with one-on-one. And then the four of us went out one day, and they started talking like sort of without me. And instead of just being like, this is just like normal, everybody has different conversations and they have their own connections, it was just like, oh, my fourth, instead of, I can't adapt. So my fourth thing, the thing that I have with each of these people, is now being ignored, and no one's interested in it. And I felt like extreme shame and extreme, I don't know, humiliation. But it was just like, they're just talking to each other. And if my friends are getting along with each other, isn't that like a good thing? But it was like, no, it's like you're saying that it's like the tavern dance. You know what I mean? Now we have to do the thing that we all do, instead of the thing that my social identity that's not about, like, unencumbered by your stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
I've never really said this, so I'm not explaining it very well.
No, you are.
Like, really aware that, okay.
No, I mean, this kind of what I like wanted to get into the guts of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
like,
it's good.
Because what you're saying, like, it's my experience is very different, but it's like, well, actually, when I say that, it's probably not in relation to the sexual instinct, because I went through a whole thing with my social instinct. Part of it was in my isolation. Like, I realized that the way you get to talk to girls is by having friends, and the way that you are interesting to girls is you have interesting experiences. Right. And I don't know, like, that's at least like the heterosexual dynamic, right? It's like, as a man, like, if you're just like in your room drawing, like, not too many women are going to be that interested in that. And my freshman year,
no one can find you.
No one can find me, right? And my freshman year of college was like incredibly isolated, where I was like just going on hours-long walks at night by myself, not talking to anybody, online a lot. And it was like, that was when I was studying Enneagram a lot. And Enneagram, one of the reasons I latched on to Enneagram is because it became a thing for me to talk about with people.
Right.
Like, it became like, that's like basically how I started teaching it, was because I was talking about it was my only thing to communicate about in a certain way. And so it was like, just, very like cornering somebody and just blasting at them. And that, yeah, totally. But I went through this process of kind of like intentionally going through social humiliation to kind of just do it, just to kind of, so like, there's a certain way on one hand that I just like, I can filter people out. So like in high school, even though I'm this withdrawn person, with the school dances, I would start them all because I like to dance. And it was like, we'd be at like homecoming or whatever, and it'd be like, no one would be dancing at my conservative Catholic school, and they'd be like, "Where's John?" They'd put like Thriller on. They get the DJ to play Thriller or something, and I would just start dancing in front of everybody, and they would start to dance. But I didn't know how to like verbal be with anybody,
Right.
and so there's this whole process of I'm trying to like, but there was a whole process of just kind of like letting myself embarrass myself,
Yeah.
and also be a dick.
Right.
Like it was a little bit overriding some of that like emotionality whatever thing, and just like letting myself be a dick, and that actually became a very effective way to like exist with other people. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think we've talked about this before, but it's really, the dancing thing is really interesting to me because dancing is, I always think about like DJ is like the antithesis to my trifix, or just like four in general. And they just have this like music's playing, so now my body is moving, I'm with it, and there's almost like no way that you can dance without sort of looking kind of peacocky stupid for like a split second, where you're like, what's that
totally.
person doing? Oh, I guess that's hot, or like it takes a second, and it's like it has to be. It only works if it's, I mean, unless we're talking about like choreographed dance, but that's, that's a different thing. But you have to be comfortable being unscripted. And so there's something so terrifying about that to me, that first of all, I would join in with everybody in this room. I didn't choose the music, which is a problem for me. I didn't choose the venue. I didn't choose anything. I didn't curate anything about this. It's like I'm supposed to just passively start doing what everybody else is doing, and like moving my body and being comfortable, like looking stupid or looking unscripted. And like that's something I have almost never done in my whole life. Like school dances, like I remember being in like grade 8, and some girl, I mean, okay, part of this is because I was like grappling with being gay or whatever, but still some girl was like, oh, let's just slow dance together, and I kept saying no, and then like she kept being like, it's okay, and I like threw her to the other side of the room, because I was like I was just so angry, and it was all just like humiliation, shame. Everybody in the room was just kind of like, I don't know, it's like grade 8s just sort of awkwardly holding each other and just like, I don't know, bobbing back and forth or whatever the fuck they think slow dancing is. But like I couldn't do it. I was like, I cannot, if people are looking at me, I can dance alone or like in front of my partner or whatever, who's like seen all these other sides of me. But just funny that you say about dancing, it's because it's like it was something that you like intentionally did, almost probably knowing what I'm describing, that it's like the antithesis of 4, and just like, I'm gonna fucking do this, you know what I mean? But like for me, I just can't fucking do it. I still can't do it.
I've also got like some kind of DJ himbo thing in me, like that's like very dumb, you know? It's like, I like to party, and there's this like way I do like to embarrass myself. Like, I mean, Alexander and I this weekend had one of the funnest nights like I've had in ages. We go to this bar near our place. They've always got great DJs. We just got lit, just were dancing, just the two of us, like all over each other, and it was just like, yeah, it was amazing. and it's so dumb. Like we get very dumb together, and
Chromag.
Totally. I've always had this like, I love to be like just dumb and like when, at the zones, like, I mean, we just go out and just get dumb, and I just love that. So I don't have that same kind of, my social self-consciousness is primarily verbal.
Right.
And so
yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's like about my slow processing, and also just like the things that I whatever talk about. But like I went through this process in like starting in middle school where some kid came up to me in like 9th grade and was like, hey John, we were all in the gym, and we were all talking, and we all decided that you were the nicest kid in the grade. And I remember going like, this has to change, like,
yeah, that's not a compliment.
No, that was like, that was really horrifying to me.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I felt so not seen, and I felt like, I was like, no, I gotta put in some work now to like be myself and not just be so a withdrawn, sensitive little, like I used to cry really easily. People used to know my feelings. I used to fall in love, all this kind of stuff. And so, I went through this like weird process of, and it was partially intentional, but partially it was like giving myself permission. And or like not even permission, but like it was like pushing out so I could be myself. And so there was like I went through this period of setting a lot of things on fire. Like we had in my gym, we had like we had a rotating schedule in high school, and so in the end of the days, Tuesdays, we had gym, and my friend and I would take what is that? Not lighter fluid, rubbing alcohol. And we'd like set the gym on fire, like the locker, like so we do like slip and slides, or we do like turn the whole shower on fire, and then we turn the like water on to like, if it was like
set
escalating.
Your school on fire.
I set the locker room on fire. We did like Molotov cocktails. Like it was like we got gasoline involved and all this and it was just like this weird explosive like fire thing that we got into. But it was kind of like this. It was like this, like allowing myself to expand and like to. It felt some kind of like integration of something bodily that I like hadn't had access to before.
Yeah. That's interesting. I feel like I've never had access to my body. I mean, I hung out with girls, so they weren't setting things on fire. That's kind of a boy thing, but yeah. What was I gonna say? We're talking about
social like self-consciousness and
just right, like that the thing how you said like getting dumb. There's something so again like anti-4 about that like when you know me well, and I'm really trying, it's taking me a long time to just like release on DAA, on Prince's Court, and it's sort of freeing. But if you know me well, I'm making weird sounds. I have my own weird language. I'm just saying stupid shit. Like I'm just like devolving into like a caveman.
Totally.
And it feels so good and it's so freeing. But with like, I think there's something with 4-3 and social that just makes it a lot more like tight-lipped. I really have to be in comfortable spaces, and it could take me a long time to get there. I mean, if you watch DA videos, like the first few videos we did versus now, I mean, my personality is starting to like come out in a way that it just wasn't before. This is the thing. There's the thing about like 4s being authentic. Like it's so there's something authentic about 4 in terms of like its negativity and rawness, but like I don't think I'm being myself all the time because I'm saying no to a lot of my natural reactions in favor of an image.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, because I think the way I think of authenticity for 4 is not that I'm just like super honest or something, but it's trying to be as this is not the right word, but like loyal to that inner sense of self as possible.
Yeah.
But I liked I do feel like the path of growth for 4s and probably 5s too is to devolve.
Yeah, that's right.
Become stupider.
Get low.
Get low. Yeah, exactly. Get nastier and sweatier and disgusting.
Yes.
And I mean, like, and also like to your point too about, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it evoked for me like in that bar this weekend with Alexandra, like it used to be where I'd be like, can I be myself in this situation?
Right.
And
go with the flow.
And now it's like, I'm going to just make this a situation to be myself in.
Right.
Like I am now just going to, now this bar is a dancing bar,
Yes.
and that happens a lot. And I think I have a lot of freedom there being social blind to just be like, I'm going to put my hands on the reins and like make this what I want it to be so I can be myself.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I can't, I just withdraw, but, it's just like, all right, I'm setting the new tone for the vibe or something. And it's like usually very dumb. And that's where it's like actually most effective for me is making things dumb in a certain way. And I find that actually people, there's a certain like personalness in the dumbness. Like people will kind of feel like, oh, I can be dumb too,
Well, that's the attachment game that everybody plays that like I'm constantly disgusted by. Like, we did this whole thing on when I was single before, but when I was dating and every profile is the same, like what's
that
your
was
pet
really
peeve?
funny. Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza, and I just want to like take their necks and just like snap them. Like, what about your head off? Is that a fucking pet peeve? Yeah, but like it's just because it's this everybody's saying the the base thing that makes the person in front of you go, yeah, same, or like, ha ha ha. Like, it's like we say naturally so many things that just sort of, it's like a line that we're sending out and it stops there before it hits the person. Actually, we were on the call the other day. I was laughing because I think you were trying to make an analogy to me and you were like, are you a movie person? I was like, no. And then it was like, well, where do we go from here? I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So like, it's just like this, like two fours just like staring at each other. Like, what the fuck? Okay. Like, we're supposed to continue relating, but neither of us is going to take a step forward.
Totally.
But it's like, if
That's
you
funny.
if you can take that step, and that step is actually not that specific color that comes from inside of you. It's fucking pineapple on pizza, or it's fucking dancing, or it's just like being stupid and being relatable. And it's like, yeah, like our journey is like, can you just be a little bit more attachment, which means doesn't mean being stupid, but that's just like one tactic to get there, where you're just like starting to release some like honest play energy that just comes out. And you're like, you know what? I'm actually just high off of this, so I don't care anymore.
Totally. Yeah. And play energy. I mean, I'm calling it dumb. Like it's less maybe like considered, than our usual things.
Right.
But like, I mean, for me, like dancing, sexuality, like my dad got me into weightlifting when I was a teenager. I know, like, I'm so skinny it doesn't show it, but like that was like a big thing.
Same.
I've done like breath work, Gurdjieff movements, Taekwondo. Like, these are all things that have been like really essential for me to like get dumb. And part of it, like, I had a really profound experience where I was doing these Gurdjieff movements. Do you know anything about them?
Not enough to, but I do. I know a little bit.
So anyway, they're all different qualities, and some are really lyrical, some are really like intense, feminine, masculine, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we were doing a dervish one, which has a very pounding rhythm. And we had this like piano player that was like a replacement because our piano player was sick, and he's like a real weirdo. I'm in the front row. I'm trying really hard to do it, and he like, this doesn't happen. But he like slammed on the keys, and he goes, you're doing it wrong, and you're throwing me off. Get in the back. And it was a really interesting experience because there was like my teacher's there. She was the one. I have a lot of friends in there. It's a humiliating thing to like get called out and shamed in front of a bunch of people. And I could feel in my body like the reactivity coming up of like wanting to be like, fuck you, or like be like, oh, I was doing it right and he's just getting it wrong. All these excuses. And I just like saw it show up, and then it just like kind of like dissipated, and I just like got in the back and didn't let it bother me. And it was like really a liberating thing where it was like, there's a little like, I have some choice in whether something embarrasses me or not. And it was like a real teaching for my like experiential like teaching or revelation or something. And I kind of bring that to whatever, where I'm like, I can feel I said something stupid, like even on this podcast all the time. I say the dumbest shit, or I go, and I just like let it go. And it's just like, that's helped me enormously, is just to like see that level of control I have,
and same, just doing, again, with social, for me, it is so intense. And doing these has helped me. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, okay, so that scenario you gave, like, I'll post something, and not so much anymore, but I started posting stuff on YouTube, and I'm getting the dumbest fucking comments. Totally. And I don't know how to put this. Like, do I care about these people that are saying negative things? No, and I don't really need to hold space for any of this. But it's just like, I am already finding it so difficult to just like say anything that sounds fun or like whatever, and now I'm being called out or criticized or something for it, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I have a choice here. Like, I'm just gonna like forget about this and put out another video. I'm just gonna keep doing this, because, and the more you do it, the more that you just, you're like, oh, I did it, it's done. Like, I was I felt bad, but like it's over. Like the next video's out, or you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter what people are saying. I'm also really tuning into like, so I have to edit the video. So like I have to watch it after, and that gives me like a bit of security because I can just be like, okay, if there's like one thing I'm not ready for people to see, it'll be like the tiniest thing I said where I'm like, that looks stupid, and I like snip it. But I'll sometimes be like, just leave it. Like just leave. I released this Barbie thing that I did with Alexandra and Akram, and I thought it'd be funny for us to dance to the Barbie song at the beginning. And then I watched it back and I was like, I want to take a knife and cut my head off. Even if I don't put this, I can't believe I did this. Like, I'm disgusted. I look like an idiot. I was so disgusted with myself. And I was like, I'm fucking keeping it in. I'm keeping it in. It looks stupid. I don't care. But like this shame, it was just like, oh my God, like, you know, so extreme. I can't let anybody see this. It's just, and I was looking at myself and I was like, how dare you just like have fun? But then I was just like, but I did have fun, and like we were laughing, and I'm just gonna keep it in, you know. And I keep doing stuff like this. Yeah.
No, that's great. I think that like humiliation exposure therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
Like I did the Taekwondo thing in a men's group, and so like you know, not only are you doing the Taekwondo, but then later you're talking about your like issues, and so. You know, I don't know. There's something about like so much exposure, like being in the body, receiving like impacts, like trying to like, it's like a whole thing to like punch right, like to get a whole flow. And there's this whole thing about like, you need to like punch from your balls. And it's like a wave of like aggression that's not like, you know, somehow like none of your body parts are like too tense or too numb or anything like that.
Right.
You're just
it has
flowing
to come from low. Yeah.
And it's funny how like even like a really shrimpy person can make a big impactful punch when the flow is right. And so it was this thing of like, I don't know, like getting kind of like, we weren't doing it like really hard contact or anything, but like getting kind of pummeled and then and then your issues all come up and all the stuff around aggression and like, you know, even like you're fighting and like what comes up is like your mom yelling at you when you're like 6 years old, fighting your brother, and like the way that you're like pulling your punches because don't hit your brother, you know, all this kind of shit comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's a similar thing of just continuously like letting yourself just be exposed in it like a kind of a dumb way.
Yeah. I want to sort of segue on the subject of balls. There's this thing, I don't know if you've ever tried to sing, like if you sing well or don't sing. Anyway,
it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just like in terms of being disembodied, one thing that singers are always taught to do, like my friend's vocal teacher told her to sing from her vagina. But it's just to say that it comes from the ground, and like nines do this so well, so naturally, and some other types as well. But I just think that there's like, I play an instrument too, and it's kind of the same thing that like it's taken me years, like where my teachers would be like, you're playing, but you're not breathing. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not breathing? What am I, dead? But they're like, you can't make a phrase without like your body being with this phrase. Like you think that just because your arms and your fingers are moving that you're like playing the notes, but it's like your whole body and the earth is engaged with you while you're doing this. And this is self-pres blind too, such a blind spot for me that I'm like, sometimes I will be playing for like an hour and stop and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And I'm like, what was I doing? I was just like tensing some muscle that didn't need to be tensed, and I was totally oblivious to like weird things I was doing with my body. And it's just like, I see everybody has to be taught, but I see nines, for example. There's so many famous pianists that are nines that are just, or singers, like I don't know, whatever, Mariah Carey, where they're like, Mariah, like how do you sing? And she's like, I don't know, I just do it. It's like she opens her mouth and this grounded thing already happens. So if she has the talent, she can do this already. I think fours suck at this. Naturally.
Totally. Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah. I don't know your experience, but there's like a disembodied quality. But then when I connect into my body, which happens more and more frequently, the older I get, and the more I practice and stuff. I mean, the body that I'm waiting that is waiting for me to connect to it is actually like very powerful and potent and strong and all these other kind of things. It's like there's a lot there.
Right.
But to get out of the emotional mental loop and into it, like
Yeah.
that, I mean, that happens much more easily now that I'm older. But like, it's like it's not quite a nine-ish flow way, but there's like this when I can get into the body. And so, like, do you have a similar experience of that, or like, what is it when you're able to make that connection?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about like, do I feel that? And like, I don't think so. I think it's rarer. Again, this might be my stacking playing as well, like gut last and stacking. It's almost just like, I don't know. I haven't had that experience yet. And I'm actually interested in like at some point doing something like breath work, like something that tricks me. Like I have such a blind spot to stuff like that I'm just like breath work. It's just breath. Like there's some part of me that's like, what the fuck is breathing gonna do? Like I really don't think that these things do anything. I don't think working out does anything. When I was younger, I didn't think that you needed to brush your teeth. I was like, you don't have to. Like I do now. I was like, I went to the dentist and had 7 cavities at once, and I was like,
Wow.
oh, like I just didn't brush them. But I have this arrogance about like I don't have to do any of that stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't have to be in my body. I'm trying to think of like if there's it's like a really good question. Like, are there moments where I have that feeling of, you know what it is? There are times where like it's very rare, but like someone will throw a ball and I like catch it and I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah, totally.
Where did that come from? Yeah, like, and then I'll miss the next 20, but it's just kind of like there's something I was like not overcompensating social and sexual for a moment, and then I went into self-pres or whatever and was like, oh, boom, and I'm like, oh, I can do this.
Totally.
Yeah,
That's
and then I start thinking about it and it's gone because I'm thinking instead of being, right? Yeah.
No, totally. Exactly. The same thing where it's like suddenly my body, like,
yeah.
Yeah. I used to play, like, it's really embarrassing, but I used to play lacrosse in high school.
That is embarrassing. No.
And I mean, I sucked, but there was this thing where, do you know anything about it? Like, there's like a net on the end of your stick and all that stuff.
Net?
Yeah.
I know you have to be white to play, that's all.
You have to be very white, yeah. And there's like anyway, it was a whole thing where it was like, I could just notice the way, if I got dumb, I could do it. You know, if I got dumb,
and even dumb jock.
Yeah, and even if I got dumb, like I am pretty good at like getting like tackled or tackling and stuff like this. And if I just got like really fucking stupid and low in my body, it just happened. And so that's funny.
I don't know. I mean, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say this applies, I think, I mean, I don't know if you want to do this topic, but it applies to sexuality for me in a big way. I have to get dumb, and I'm always having sex with 9s, and I like always, and it's there's so they just go from like existing to like screaming in like a second, like one touch, whatever. They're like made for just like this embodiment. The line between eating and having sex is the same because it's all body. For me, it's just kind of like sometimes I'll be standing there and somebody's like starts touching me or something, and I'm like, oh my, it's like that thud sound that you just made. I'm almost like, oh my God, body, what the hell are we doing in my body? And then I start thinking about it and I'm just like, no, just like be stupid, like turn your thoughts off and just like get into this. And like, that's like something I've been really trying to work on, because I'm just like, I don't enjoy myself when I'm thinking during sexual acts. I need to just be in it. And like, or if I'm feeling like aroused or whatever, and I'm just like, I want to do something, obviously within the lines of consent, you're like, I'm just going to do this thing. But then sometimes I'm just like, oh, can I say this thing? Can I give this slap? Can I give this whatever? I can't, but like, how's that going to come across? And then I'm doing social image stuff, and I'm paralyzed, and I'm like, this is not good sex. So that's like that embodying thing, I think, goes in that area as well.
Yeah, totally. I've always been like, my heart and my genitals are very connected, like like very responsive. Like if my heart is touched, I get excited or whatever. Like and so it's never like, sexuality has always been like a very like liberating space for me, and very natural. And I kind of feel like, I mean, I've always kind of felt like if I could just be like sexual constantly, I would be really happy and free, but not even like with other people in a certain way. Like it's
I can do it by myself. Yeah. Like in my but in my mind, like it generally, like I talk about sex all the time. I'm feeling it. I'm very in touch with arousal. But then now someone's looking at me and touching my body, and it's a different story because I really have to be, like on for them or something. Yeah.
Well, that part even like that, like it's like that's like the right kind of being seen for me, is like seen by a woman in a sexual space. It's like I feel very like relaxed and free. It's like all that, with Josh's language, like frustration with gaze. It's like the gaze I'm looking for is sexual gaze.
Okay.
And so when I feel like, and hopefully Alexander won't be annoyed with me with this, but like when she like really objectifies me, like just objectifies me, I am so happy. Whether she's
that's sex, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there's some way that I like feel like I'm like just absolutely myself.
Right. Yeah.
And so even though there's all this disembodied stuff, that's always been the arena. That's like sexuality. I mean, there's so much more than I feel comfortable going into in a thing that people listen to. But it's there's so much tied up in like identity, in my heart, in everything there. That's like it's this, on one hand, this an arena of immense freedom and joy, and then this other hand, there's a lot of neuroticism.
I feel that way about social. It's kind of just like doing stuff like this. I'm just like, like I'm anxious because now I'm going to have to do a call, and we're getting to know each other, and everybody's listening, and that's a lot. But I'll get off the call and be like, whew, like that was fun. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of double. Just in the subject of sex is interesting because what you're saying about like being objectified, it's like I actually feel that way too, but in a social sort of body blind way. Like if somebody's like, I want to look at your pictures, and I want to stare at you, or I want to do that, it's like, yeah, that feels really good. But if hands are on me now, like body, and I have to now, or it's not about actually hands on me. It's like I now have to perform something, or it feels performative. Like I can't, it's like I have to do that thing that we were talking about earlier with the dance where I just get dumb and be free. If I'm just being objectified, that, yes, I agree. Like I can stay in that space for a long time. And even in a social space, if someone's almost doing that sexual thing to me socially, like I love talking to you, or I love this dynamic or whatever, I can stay there. But when it's like right down into the like body thing of like, okay, now you are expecting me to do something with you, to you, and make you feel a certain way. Now I start to overthink body stuff. It's like it can stay digitally, it can stay in just gaze, so to speak, with eyes, with I don't know if there's a lot to go into here, but that's just been my experience.
So one of the things, I mean, way back, I think it was we did a podcast on Mindhunter and Silence of the Lambs, and looked at like who's that, Hannibal Lecter and the Tooth Fairy, the two like killers in those movies, as examples of a 3 and a 4. And I think in that episode I was talking about like how the heart types have this sort of timeless sense of identity, and it's kind of like being an embodied person or in time is like you're proving yourself, or like trying to make your day-to-day actions relate more congruently with that like eternal out of time self, like that ideal self or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Kind of like, tell me if this is right, but what I kind of hear you speaking to is there is like a very strong kind of like like it's gonna sound cheesy, but like eternal Joseph, or like Joseph that is like your idealized self.
That's right.
And it's like there's the different opportunities to prove it in.
That's right. Yeah.
And it like sometimes it feels really good, and sometimes it feels really like jarring. Is that right?
Yeah. You're kind of, it's a sense of like, even in the sexual space or the dance space, anything. It's like I'm always looking up at some godlike icon of me looking and being a certain thing, and then feeling not that. And so if I were in, say, a 3, I might be like, I can adjust. I can be that thing, right? It's there. And I don't feel that off of, like, it's a frustration. I'm not that, and I can't do this. So it's like, that's where the withdrawn type thing comes in. Like, now I have to go back inside and deal with this.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So Last thing I want to ask you about before we go, because I want Emeka to suffer too much, is I was curious about like your line to two
Yeah.
and how you experience that.
Yeah, you know what? I've actually thought about this a lot, and I'm not. Maybe you have something to add here. I don't know. Let me my line to two. Okay, tell me how you experience your line to two. I want to see if I even relate to this at all.
So with the lines, like I always feel like, you know, there's the high side and the low side, and so you know, the low side of two. Well, I'll say first the high side of two, I guess, is I feel like very like sentimental and lovey-dovey for the like few people in my little inner thing, especially Alexandra. Like when she gets in her 9 zone, she has this like she like gets all cozy, and I want to bring her tea, and I want to make her feel good, and I want to please her, and I want to like make her, you know, like it's very. I want to build her up. I want to make her whatever. I want to give her like what I see in you. I offer that to her, and it can be very like. You know, Alexandra's very cute, right? And so just there's like this like, oh, you know, like this cuteness thing. But then my low side of two is when I've been obnoxious and alienating and self-absorbed, it's like I get self-conscious that I have sabotaged the dynamic I have with people I care about. And so there can be this kind of it's kind of like overcorrecting for all the selfish self-absorbedness, and I get a little like outside of myself, and can I do something for you? And like it's not people pleasy, but it's a little bit, it's counter to my withdrawn individualistic thing, you know what I'm saying? And it's coming from a place of, oh no, you know, did I fuck this up kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm starting to get. So I think the reason I was like not sure is because I have 6 and then a 1 wing 2, which are like super ego types. Right. So I don't know how much of this I'm conflating with like the 6-1 stem that I have, but I am controlling about my good deeds for people. So like I will be like like I cook, right? And but I have to cook, and you can't help me because I don't, or no, I'm happy to have help, but it's like I'm doing this, and then I make it for you, and then you have to like it, and if you don't like it, you're hurting me. Sort of, I do like stuff. So that I guess like the high side and the low side, because I actually can be weirdly like I'm so selfish, but then at the same time, all of a sudden I'm like really giving, where I'm like buying you gifts and I'm doing all this like stuff, but then. The low side is that like it's like I'm such a dick all the time. I did this one thing for you and you didn't go, oh, wow. Like, you know, and now I'm hurt because it's just like, fine, I'm never doing anything nice again.
Yeah, it should have been like really special to you that I did something. Yeah. yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I want it to be receive, and but it's also it's controlling. Like it's really nice. Like I'm a gift buyer. I'll be like, I bought you a cookie, I bought you this, and it's really sweet, but like sometimes, like, you know, my 9, whichever one it's been in the past, will just look at me like, I don't want I don't want a cookie. I don't even eat cookies, and I'm just like, well, I bought it for you. Like, you know what? It's just I get you don't want the cookie, but it's like I didn't check in really to be like, does he even want the? I just like I have to do something nice. I have to do something nice. It's like like you said, an over conversation for the fact that I am so controlling about my space and everything that happens, and I'm critical and I'm frustrated all the time, and I say mean things. But here's a cookie.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I have my own. I also, you know, like I don't know if you've heard any of the pods where they make fun of me for heart blasting at zones. Like, no. So one of the things, especially if I get on MDMA, one of the things that will happen is I start telling everybody how much they mean to me, and how I'm, you know, like again in Josh's language, I start to give gays like a 2. So I'm this is what I see in you, and it's like, you know, Emeka's made fun of it because like he's like gotten into relationships twice because they like it opens up a heart energy in the whole room, you know, and it's like, but it's like I don't know if you have that kind of a thing, but like I get like, and that's actually really special to me to be able to offer what I see in people to them, and I don't have anything about it. Like I don't need it received back at all. It's just like I want to give what I see, and so that's like I don't know. That's a big 2 thing for me.
Yeah, it manifests, I think, a little bit for me too in the social space, where again it's a moment of emotional softening that I'm like, usually like if I'm in a social space, I'm just like, no, I have to be the least nice person here, and I can't let nobody can be,
Yeah.
It's so stupid, but it's true. Like I really don't like if somebody tells me I'm really nice, I'm just like, how dare you? Like what's wrong?
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you? Like but then I'll get this euphoric feeling social sometimes in a space, and I'm just like, you know what, guys, I really want to tell you that like I value you so much, and all of a sudden I'm like really soft, and it's I don't know about you, but when you go to that line, it's almost a tidal wave, and you're euphoric for a second,
yeah,
and you
totally.
can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And then again, but then you're also still really sensitive about
Yeah.
it too. So if it's like not being received at all, you're just like, fine, back to 4. Fuck all of you guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And some of my cheesy himbo stuff comes out there too, because I get a little like, like Barry White, like of just like kind of big and annoying and like
talking really close to the mic.
totally, yeah, absolutely, all that kind of shit. So,
Yeah.
I think we should probably wrap it there. But unless you had anything else,
No, that's
Um,
good. Yeah.
I think this was a really interesting thing, and thanks for doing it.
Yeah. I mean, we should talk more because you're the only other 4. I mean, I know you had a relationship with 4, so you've like kind of gotten in a way, you know way more about this type than I do, and it's really difficult to do self-analysis.
For
So
sure.
it's like I know more about 6 because I've seen a billion 6s. I don't know a lot about my own type. So yeah, it's interesting to talk to you and like compare, and also just see how parse out the things that aren't 4 that for me are social or 3-wing or my trifix or whatever, and like find the point where we're connecting what's that essence of that type.
Yeah, and I would like to do more 4-3, 4-5 comparisons.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
lot to be done there because we have a
yeah.
lot of different experiences. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and even just like getting into like the for lack of a better term, the aesthetic of it. Like I was sharing some stuff of like Butoh and all this other kind of like art, and then Butoh is like a Japanese dance, and then Artaud is a French guy, and these like kind of different influences that I think kind of represent that space. And then after our thing on the tests thing was like, oh wow, like the difference of our wings is really powerful.
It's huge. From my perspective, it feels like 4-wing 5s almost like don't believe in beauty because everything's ugly or something, and like 4-wing 3s believe in beauty. It's just not anywhere that I can see or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the word beauty is like does really resonate, but it's like a very like specific and veiled kind of beauty. So
there's more to talk about there too.
Also, if you ever want, we could do some online breath work. I don't know if that would be out of your comfort zone or anything, but I do that with people all the time.
It is absolutely out of my comfort zone, but it sounds terrible if I'm being honest, but no, it is actually something I've been thinking about for a long time. At some point I will reach out to you because I do actually think it's a huge blind spot for me, so I want to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, don't be shy anytime, just hit me up, and it'll be great.
Appreciate that.
All right, thanks, Joseph.
All right. Bye.
All right, see you, man.
Bye.